This episode of Blacktop Banter is brought to you by Crafco, the world's leading manufacturer of packaged pavement preservation materials and equipment for the asphalt industry. Learn more at crafco.com. Blacktop Banter's back. Feels good. We're going to jump into an interview here with one of our great sponsors. We've been wanting to do this for a while. Crafco jumped on with us, being the official sponsor of Blacktop Banter, which we're very excited about. And immediately we started talking about podcast episodes and content and how we can create and what we can do and what it's going to look like, all of us coming together. And I had a great conversation at the beginning with Chris and Allie, and they're like, we want to get Mike Corvino on the podcast. Mike is territory manager with Crafco, working out of Atlanta, Georgia, a beautiful, beautiful state, red dirt, peaches, semi-okay football teams. You got it all. That guy's got it all.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Coca-Cola. So, Mike, how did you get to this point, man? What is your background? How do we get where Crafco has their first shot against somebody on the air to represent, and they throw Mike Corvino in there and like, all right, you're going to sit down with Marvin. How do you get to this point, man? What was your career like? How do you get to this point with Crafco and that background? You know, how to get you here?
By accident.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean,
those are the best ones.
I mean, truly, there's no great story of I was this, well-known pavement preservation guy. No, I knew sales and marketing, and I knew government business.
Okay.
I actually come from uniform manufacturing.
Get out,
So
really?
I made clothes. Your guys might wear some of the workwear we made.
Dang.
I still see it to this day, and I just laugh a little. And a mutual friend introduced me to my now manager. Interviewed. They said, what do you know about pavement preservation? And I said, the black squiggly lines. And they're like, yeah. And I said, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I know.
I mean,
yeah.
Truly, all the knowledge came from working for Crafco and our robust training and just having a good leader
Yeah.
to report to. And a lot of the job is the same, managing distributors.
Mm-hmm.
Calling on governments, setting up programs with the government. So a lot of the foundation was the same. It was just a very more technical product.
Yeah. Well, anybody who is in the asphalt game knows that when they see municipalities, 98% of the time, they're pulling a red machine behind them. Like anytime they're going to do any type of crack filling, it's 98% of the time that's what they're doing. So obviously that's a huge part of Crafco's footprint, right? But nowadays you have seal coaters like us who pull these Crafco units onto residential driveways, small parking lots, large parking lots, and preposterously, one isn't enough for us nowadays, right? Like they've come from this thing where it's like, yeah, they don't really fit our mold, to where now they heat up faster. The material, there's a wide spectrum of material and whatnot, to where all of a sudden, yeah, we want to buy Crafcos too. Like we don't just want to, to be in the village and buy their old ones that we know are going to take a while to heat up. I think the innovations that have come along have done that. But did you have any interest in that at all? Did it spark your interest when somebody introduced you and was like, hey, pavement preservation, what do you think? Or were you like, yeah, I guess I'll test the waters out a little bit and see what's going on there?
I remember getting the call from my buddy, and he kind of briefly told me what they did. And it absolutely did pique my interest. It was going to be a big challenge for me. My old company I worked for, the uniform manufacturing, was a streamline from my previous career. Okay. So I knew all the players in that world, all the chiefs, sheriffs, government officials on that side of the business. Then when he said pavement preservation and what they did, it really did, because it challenged me to go so far out of my comfort zone to learn this product. And knowing Crafco is not enough to work for Crafco.
Right. That was going to be my next question for sure.
Yeah. Our products affect so many different other surface treatments.
Yep.
And you just can't know enough about just Crafco.
Right. Yeah. And then times change.
About all the other surface treatments, how your product interacts with other products, because potentially they're all going to be put on the road or parking lot together.
Yeah. Yeah. They all work as you get to peeling back the layers, you realize they all go hand in hand, and one kind of washes the hand of the other. And once you get this one completed, it's time for this one. And then you give it a little bit of time, and then you're going to need this one, right? Or we're going to add on, we're going to do something else. So you go ahead.
Someone threw out there, I think we make 100 different specifications of crack sealant. Because you got to think what we put on the road is very different than what we put on a parking lot.
Oh, for sure. And then that's different what we put on a driveway.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
You got to know it all.
So that was going to be my next question, right? Crafco has a training program for you. What does that look like time-wise, and how deep does that go as far as you had 100 different specifications? And this is just the asphalt side. Like Crafco goes into a lot of different realms as well, right? We just did the announcement of Pore Shield, right? Who they acquired, a soybean-based sealer that goes over concrete. That's brand new. So it's like, okay, there's another thing we're going to learn. Guess what else is going to go hand in hand with that? Probably something else, and then something else, and something else. So what does that look like for you jumping on board? And they're like, here's the training program. How long is it? Is it deep? Is it just here's a stack of stuff, study? I mean, what does that look like for you?
Man, it was all of the above. It was like being in college again. I'll never forget it, because at that point, just to back up again, I got hired, and like 2 weeks later, the world fell apart. COVID.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's 3.5 years ago, roughly, is when I came on. So my onboarding phase was a little different than what Crafco's footprint normally is. You usually get hired, you go out to Chandler, Arizona, our headquarters. You go through what we call, My Crafco or Crafco U, and it's intense 2 weeks of here's all the equipment, materials, and then you still got to learn corporate policy and how to log into your quoting system. So it's 2 long weeks of training. And then a lot of it is really having a good, strong manager as a leader, and having, being able to pick someone's brain that's been doing this for, I think, 27 years or something. Don't hold me to that, but a very long time. And it's just picking up the phone, and it's getting out on these jobs, the parking lot jobs, the driveways, the highway, the bridges. And I'm one of those people, I've got to touch it to learn it. Seeing it on black and white, just to me, it's like, okay, I read it. How do you use this?
That's universally, that's the asphalt industry. Like, you're gonna Chris is in the studio, as I said. Like, the amount that Chris is understanding and knowing by just being around by osmosis is way more than if I would have said, hey, this is everything. Here, read this. This will tell you everything about the asphalt industry. You get done and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He was telling me he was looking at a project here locally at a car dealership the other day, and they were doing a certain process that we covered recently. And he was like, I should have just pulled up and been like, hey, you guys ain't doing that right. Like, I'll here, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. There's no substitution for that, for the real world experience of it. And it's nice, right, that you get all that background that Crafco gives you in the training, because then you're able to take from paper what you've seen and recognize it in the real world, and things to start to make sense. But the mentorship, dude, that's full spectrum. If you're seal coating, you probably learn that from somebody. If you're asphalt paving, you learn that from somebody. If you're crack sealing, you probably learn the technique from somebody. It's mentorship all the way through. And like you were saying, having a manager with all that experience helps you immensely catch up. Did you think that it was tough sledding to catch up and gain traction, or do you feel like it worked out really smoothly for you?
I think it worked out smoothly for me. There's definitely some, going back to the grade school math. I can't tell you the last time I calculated volumes. It's not something you do. You look at a recipe when you're baking a cake, you're like, all right, 1 cup of this, but now you've got to add so much sand or so much rock, which wasn't hard. It was just something you don't do. It's,
Do you find that interesting, that aspect of it, the calculations and the volumes, or what keeps you interested in it? Like, you've been 3.5 years, and if you didn't like it by now, I'm guessing you would have been like,
I'd have been gone,
yeah, dude. Everybody's hiring, so Corvino could have been anywhere, but you're sticking around here. What keeps you interested in it?
The job. Just truly the job, the products. Crack sealing is our core business, right? Everybody knows us for crack sealing, but Crack sealing's fun and it's interesting, but when you're moving into like the repair materials, the mastics and everything,
Yep.
you're really building something, because as long as these products have been around, I'm still going out to agencies. Now, keep in mind, these products 20 plus years, still going to
Hmm.
agencies, and they have no clue what it
No
is.
idea. Yeah.
No idea. They don't know what it's used for. So seeing them see it, get excited about it, and then the follow-up is implement it. And where you're having commissioners or public works directors call and say, thank you. You've
Yeah.
really helped a need out, um, and really bridged a gap where we would have just said, well, we'll wait till that road falls apart and we'll try to get it if we have enough money to pave.
Yep.
And that's a serious thing in the industry, where there's a lot of agencies that still have that, worst is first mentality, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, if they don't know other options exist, then they just go with the complete, we're going to wipe it clean, put it back. And to me, they're overspending because they can keep doing preservation processes that are going to pro-life that long a lot farther, which means we're going to have extra tax dollars if they're doing municipality work to spend other places, right? So for us, yeah, they're spending on the preservation side, but they're saving on the complete replacement side. And if we can do that over the life of a municipality, which is forever apparently at this point, you're going to have more money over time than you would have just replacing. What we've come to find out is it's a struggle sometimes, because the status quo is, you crack fill it, it starts to get potholes real bad, you throw and go patch, and then you just replace it all. And it's like, well, yeah, but you can do different things over an amount of time to make that happen. So those are all different project scenarios. What's an interesting project or something that you can think of fresh that you've been part of recently that you can share with us?
Um, there's so much going on with different products. I would say, there's a county here in Georgia that never did pavement preservation. I don't want to say never. Any of the employees that I dealt with, from the engineers to the directors to even the in-house maintenance staff, couldn't
Yep.
speak to a time of where they've ever done maintenance. It
Dang.
was, we have X millions of dollars and we go pave. And I actually got to help select some of the roads, or
Oh,
I don't want to say I
cool.
helped, I gave input on the roads that were a, good candidate for our products, crack sealing and going into our repair materials,
Yep.
and worked with them, helped them come up with a budget, and led a project. And it was
Cool,
successfully
man.
won. They had a couple bidders, and everybody across the board was ecstatic, because they were like, well, we're just going to pave it next year, and we'll see what happens in that time. We'll just keep throwing cold patch out there. And
Yeah,
you
that's
talk
a
about
solvent.
different traffic, smaller vehicles, motorcycles. And when you're hitting a pothole that's 3, 4 inches by a foot,
Yep.
and they tried the cold mix, they tried putting hot mix in it, and there's just so much movement on that road, it seemed like, it just popped out,
Yeah.
everything they did. So
You guys,
that was probably an interesting one.
do you do you see, like, you know if you hang around some of the conferences and different events, and there's a lot of contractors there and some old boys there, they always have some like crazy stuff that they've seen. Do you have anything like that, like where you've worked on some of those projects or been around stuff where you've seen some wild stuff? We had somebody last year leave a valve open on I think it was a Crafco. I think we had it, and we went and like walked ahead, like, wow, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna turn around and, we'll make this loop. This will be the path, and then we'll exit the parking lot. We get back there. There's a 25-foot wide puddle, right, of just crack filler just laying there, and I'm like, oh my god, like, oh my god, what do we do? But luckily, had mentors, had that type of stuff. Immediately, I'm online. I'm like, hey, what do I do here? And they're like, get water and spray it. Like, spray the whole area, spray the whole entire thing, spray it. Let it cool enough so that the water don't penetrate. Spray all the pavement around it. So we sprayed all the pavement, got water all around it. You could get on the corner and start pulling. We pulled this. It must have been probably equivalent to 6, 8 boxes of rubber. But, we pulled it all up and pulled this huge giant glob up. But that's the kind of stuff, like, you don't believe that until somebody tells you that. Have you seen anything crazy, wild like that? Any stuff like that?
Same story. I had a very experienced contractor. I mean, they've been in the business for probably 40 years. And one of their foremen that really loved to tell everybody his experience. I get a call and he says, "Hey, once you," it was an Easy Series machine, so
Okay.
it didn't have the on-demand pump, had the Roper style
Yep.
pumps where they recirculated.
Yep.
Well, he recirculated on top of the tanker. I still to this day
Oh
don't realize,
yeah,
but
the
basically
wand.
it just came down
Yep.
and went all over. And
Oh
this
my
guy was an
gosh, dude.
experienced guy. Now, thankfully, the owner's been doing this a while and was able to
Figure
um,
it out.
do it. But I gotta, yeah, now I'm thinking about it a little bit more. We had a guy in Georgia, they rent a machine. I mean, this is an experienced guy that
Yep.
runs this crew. We have a unique gray in color crack sealant.
Yep.
And it comes in a bag and it says Road Saver, whatever, 963 or 960 gray crack sealant. Well, we also have a resin-based concrete patching material. And
Okay.
it comes in a white bag with huge blue and black letters. It says HP concrete cold patch asphalt
Oh
repair material.
no.
And they're on other sides of the barn.
Yep.
So I don't know what he was thinking, but he goes and grabs it and cuts it
Oh
open and
no,
dumps it all
man.
in.
Oh
And there's
no.
aggregate in that. I don't know if you know anything
Oh
about pumps and
yes.
aggregate. It doesn't really work
Yes.
out too well. So that was a several $1,000
Go.
mistake.
Oh, and not only that, you lose time
Yeah.
production that day.
Time, yeah, the
Oh
rental rate
my
doesn't stop.
gosh. Oh,
It was bad.
there you go, Chris. There
That's
we
the
go.
perfect, yeah.
That's the one.
That's what like, is there a way to fix that? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, so it's
Yeah.
easy. I'm like, new pump.
No, it ain't easy. Yes, we got to take this thing off. And not only that, now then it's in the bath, right? It's in the canister. It's in the bath.
Mm-hmm.
You've tried pumping it into the lines. Ugh, yeah, dude, it never surprises me sometimes, right? Where it's like, okay, let's do this. But that's what keeps it fresh. To me, like those are the stories and those are the things that keep it fresh. One thing that I've always found, we go over safety protocol. You have experienced guys on the wand, all that stuff. There's always a possibility that something is going to happen. And I think that initially people, when they are by their Crafcos, they're worried, right? Because it's hot material, things are pumped, so there is pressure. Granted, they don't understand it's low pressure, and most of the time things just leak if they're going to do something, or it doesn't get too wild. We've had more incidents with direct fire, right, than anything that we've ever done with our oil jacket machine and stuff. But yeah, I think that's what keeps it interesting, is stories like that and different things and different obstacles to overcome. But you got to stay motivated for that type of stuff too. Like, we had one, so we have an easy, I think we have Easy 100, and we were on a big project last year, and we're cleaning the lot, right? We're super excited. It's going to be easy. Every time I think it's going to be easy, yeah. All of a sudden, my crew lead comes up and he's like holding a hydraulic hose. And I'm like, where'd that come from? He's like, the Crafco. I'm like, how do we blow a hydraulic hose on this thing? Well, I was trying to get it to agitate, and he was rocking it, trying to get the agitator to go this way, that way, this way, and that way. And it must have just threw pressure into this older line, and boom, blew hydraulic fluid all over this spot, right close to a drain and whatnot. So immediately, thankfully we had quick dry. Immediately we throw quick dry on, and then we're just standing there looking at it like, what the heck are we gonna do, man? Like, now we got
hydraulic fluid everywhere.
Hydraulic fluid in a huge puddle, right? And
Yeah,
now we got quick dry on there, and it's Sunday, right? We're in small town. I repeat this on every podcast, I feel like, but we're in a really small town. There's one car parts place. Is it gonna be open on Sunday? I have no idea. It's like 11:30 when we blow this hose. We get there, and the chances of them even having a piece of hose in this town is slim. They get there and they're like, yep, we got one. We've had it for about 10 years. It's laying on the wall over here. They go and get this old hydraulic hose that fit. It's still on there right now. Saved it. We pull it out of the way. Saved the day. Thank God. We were only down like 45 minutes or an hour. We end up getting the quick dry out of the way, using oil spot primer, cover it up, let the owners or the manager know, right? Hey, we're going to have this huge oil spot. If it comes up or issues happen, let us know. We'll come back and take care of it. If it takes all year and we got to seal coat it 6 times, we'll take care of the spot or whatever it takes. But it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, you get that feeling. And that story, like you saying, that's just like, oh man, it is what it is, I guess.
Hey,
But
I've had a hydraulic issue too.
oh yeah,
Same story, except the difference was they severed the line. They hit it with a torch or something, and it just enough
crud.
to pop it, I guess. And no one, of course, told me exactly what happened, right? It was a bunch of
Right.
excuses. Well, they called me. And, I'm no mechanic. I know enough to figure some stuff out.
Yep.
And they called me and they said, hey, we got hydraulic fluid going over. I said, was the machine still running? They said, yeah, well, how do we shut it down? I was like, go snatch the key.
Yeah.
And they sat there and took the time to walk away to call me to
Oh,
tell me that
gosh.
hydraulic fluid was going all over this parking lot.
Dude.
And so I was still new. I didn't know how bad that was. So, I shut it off, called my boss. I said, hey, what's going to happen? They said, well, and he's like, what do you mean what's going to happen? Hydraulic fluid gets on asphalt. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not something you just wash away.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, they're not oil-based products anymore. It doesn't work like that very much. How great is that to have that as a resource? You have these relationships that you developed now after being in the industry a few years, where you can just call somebody on the phone, right? And they come into that. How often do you use that resource for yourself?
More than I'm willing to admit on a public forum. We have a good support team. I mean, from our engineers out at Chandler to even our guys at the supply center that are turning wrenches on these things, to even other territory managers. We have one territory manager that came up through being a mechanic, and I can't tell you how many times that something small happened, but you just don't know, and you can only troubleshoot. I can only troubleshoot so much through a book.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
You're on the side of the road, it's cold or it's hot.
Yes.
I don't want to be back there reading a book and just call this guy no matter what time it is. And he's like, hey, get your voltmeter out, start chasing wires.
Yeah.
And,
see if we can figure
5 minutes on the phone with this guy, I figured it out. It was a simple fix, but I've learned something about road construction. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We had one, that easy pour, right? They have it's like an eye, right? That lets you know whether the burner's lit or not on the older versions of the easy pour. And we had one that would light and then not, and then light and then not, and then light and then not. I'm like, what in the heck am I doing? And we call over. Thankfully, we have a great one here, which is a Crafco distributor here in Wisconsin, Sherwin Industries. And Ryan Miller, his dad worked on Crafcos from when they started, taught him, and now he's there. We call over, dude. I'm like, we messed with it for 20 minutes, I swear. And I'm like, we're not gonna be able to do this job. Like, either I'm gonna figure it out, or we're gonna have to call and be like, well, hey client, we're not gonna be able to do it today. I call over and he's like, dude, every time it's on a Sunday, he's like, dude, it's Sunday. Don't call me. I'm not at work. I'm like, I work on Sunday and I work with a Crafco. I need your help. And he's like, what's it doing? I told him. He's like, get a rag, get a piece of paper towel and wipe that lens off on the front. He's like, was it dirty? I was like, yeah, it was dirty. We blew dust everywhere with the blowers. We're cleaning the whole lot. So everything's covered in dust. He's like, yeah, that lens is dirty. He's like, clean it off, be light, and it'll go. No lie, dude. We wiped it. Took off. I feel like an idiot, which happens to me more often than I would like to admit on public forum. But here we are. Now every time, like, immediately, even the guys that are there, like, if it does it again, they're like, oh, I know what to do. Yeah, I've been around. I've seen this. Clean the lens off. She lights and goes, so everybody gets a little bit of clout with it. When you have those relationships like you have and like I have, right, calling Ryan, it helps you. It does help you, but you grow when you do that, right? Because I don't have to call Ryan again. And if somebody asks a question, now I know, right? Like, how do we do that? How have you been handling that? Like, what do you do, or what have you done regularly that you think has made you grow in this industry?
Retain information. Yeah, that's
Are
a
you
good
good
question.
at it? Are you good at it?
I'm good at taking notes. I've always been an avid note taker. And I'm real good because pictures are cheap, right? Now you got your phone.
Sure.
So a lot of times I'll just take pictures, and I know if I can scroll back through my pictures, I can figure out how to change that pressure switch.
Yeah.
Or how to change that cat eye.
Yeah. Have you
That's
made
really
mistakes?
been the big thing.
Have you made some big ones that you could share with us that you learned from?
Nothing major. Thankfully,
good.
no.
It's good.
No,
Good.
I can't think of anything like where I'm calling the boss and I'm like,
oh man, it's on
I
the
don't
line.
know. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know what's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen here. Thankfully, nothing like that. But I think that's part of Crafco's footprint, if you will,
That's
a little.
just what I was gonna say.
Have
Yeah,
you
man.
ever read our installation instructions? It's like a doomsday. I say this in a positive light. It's like a checklist for
Yes.
packing for. I was going to make a a war analogy, but I won't do that.
I
But
will. It's like
a
packing
battle
for
plan.
doomsday, for sure.
It is. I mean,
Yeah. It's
when
like
someone's like,
prepping.
well, when I go to with a new contractor that's just starting to do something, or I'm out on a job and there's a new inspector, first thing I'm doing is handing out installation instructions. And when someone says, well, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know the material. Well, I told you, but here it is in the installation instructions highlighted.
Yeah.
Read the installation instructions. So there's just so much information and a lot of support out there. And I'm really trying to come up with a story where it's
that's
like
good. No, that's a footprint. That's an attribute of Crafco. You know what I mean?
I think so.
When you first get to them, they're intimidating a little bit because you're like, dang, I don't know how any of this stuff functions or moves or does whatever, and we're going to heat it up to 400 and 500 degrees sometimes. Cool. Great. This would be fantastic. And then you get there and you're kind of waiting. Like, even now, man, I wait sometimes for like something to happen. And nothing really ever happened. It just runs and functions and does it. And like sometimes we'll get a clog or something, or something's not heated up enough yet or whatever. And, or like the eye thing. Like, but that's pretty much been the worst of it. So, and that's an older piece of equipment, right? So even the newer ones, super shots, we have great friends that talk great things about Crafco on with their super shots or whatever machines they have and that they're running. And it just always comes back to that. It comes back to that same thing, which I think is a great part of it. Okay, so here you've explained to us a lot of like different scenarios and different challenges you've overcame and that type of stuff. There has to be moments, right, during this whole thing that you're really proud of. Either you delivered or you delivered to a client, right? Can you share one of those with us?
Probably the relationships I've been able to cultivate with my customers this quick. And, in the big scheme of things, when I look at my coworkers, my the leadership of the company, my boss, 27 years, the VP that just retired, I think he had 30 something years. We've got other regional managers with that much time in that have all these wonderful success stories of what they've accomplished. And I just feel where I'm at just for 3 years with my even limited knowledge. There's still so much to learn. I guess I kind of pride myself in building those relationships and being able to just approach a lot of these government officials and get a lot of knowledge from them, and them, trust me with some of the things that I've presented to them that they haven't seen before.
Aren't on the relationship side, I explain that to everybody. That is the bread and butter of your success, are the relationships that you build, that you can call on them at times. Those are some of the introductions that lead to your sales at different times. If you sever, just as important as they are to keep or to make, that's just as important to keep them. This isn't an industry where you can tell somebody to go fly a kite, right? Because somebody will work here, then work there, and then they'll lead to there. Every time you would do that, it creates opportunity. We work really hard to try to make it work, right? If it makes dollars and makes sense, even at the minimum amount, we try to make it work because we want to keep those relationships. To us, they bring value. We're like a huge, giant asphalt family, it feels like, essentially. And I'm sure you felt that, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a tight-knit, it's a huge industry that is somehow very tight-knit, and everybody seems even it's crazy, these big paving contractors, which could really honestly care less about pavement preservation, but within their large lettings, there is pavement preservation with crack sealing and everything. And you think these guys want nothing to do with it, yet you've got to know these guys too.
Yeah.
You've got to have relationships with them because they're going to sub that out to your contractors.
Yeah. And, just knowing the equipment and knowing the products, whether you're using them or not using them, is going to be important in the industry at some point, no matter what, right? Whether it's conversation or whatever, in keeping those relationships and whatnot. I really want to start asking you about equipment and materials and that type of stuff. Yeah. I
had a question for you, actually.
All right. Well, what we'll do is...
Can the interviewee ask the interviewer a question?
Oh, for sure. What we're going to do is we're going to jump to some commercials real quick. I'm going to let you ask me the question, and then I'll jump into all the equipment and whatnot questions and the products, because I have a lot of them. So let's jump to that real quick. We have a great list of sponsors, one of which, of course, is Crafco, who we're talking with today. Let's go. Asphalt Maintenance Contractors. Winter's just around the corner, and we all know the harmful effects that colder months have on pavement. Here at Wiscoat, we've tried a lot of products. We keep coming back to Crafco because of their crack and joint sealers are the best in the industry. No matter the climate that you're located in, Crafco has products that will fit your needs. Find the full product lineup at crafco.com. That's CRAFCO.com. Have you seen the smoothness and compaction that Dynapack's seismic technology has recently brought to the asphalt industry? It's incredible. And Dynapack's CC900G roller may just be the best roller on the market for driveway and parking lot paving contractors. It's even better than the little yellow one that you're used to seeing. But don't take my word for it. Give the CC900G a test run yourself by visiting Dynapack.com and finding a retailer near you.
Say goodbye to potholes and roadway damage without the need for large crews, heavy equipment, or toxic chemicals. Aquafalt is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafalt repair can be opened to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Plus, the product is backed by a 3-year warranty and is made in the USA. Visit aquafalt.com. That's AQUAPHALT.com to learn more.
I'm incredibly proud of the Blacktop Banter Edition seal coating unit produced in partnership with KM International and available now in both the 550 and 700-gallon versions. Custom built on the same frame as their bulletproof hot boxes, I work closely with KM to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. A unit designed by a contractor for contractors. See the entire walkthrough of the unit on Blacktop Banter's YouTube channel or visit kminternational.com to learn more and place your order. Since its inception, Dubuque Asphalt Maintenance has branded our trucks with the 1-800-BLACKTOP number from the 800 Pavement Network and consistently seen increases in leads and jobs completed. I know the 800 Pavement Network can do the same for your business. Visit 1-800-PAVEMENT.com and get set up with your custom phone number today. All right, back in the seat again. Mike, you have a question for me.
Yeah, we talked a lot about relationships and kind of mentorships in this industry because there's no real school to teach you how to do a lot of this stuff.
For sure.
What do you see the future of recruitment? Are you getting younger guys interested in doing this work? Is there that drive to get into this?
So this is a topic that we talk about quite a bit, especially at conferences and in like smaller groups, right? Because you see some younger guys coming in and it's not as many as there used to be. That's the struggle, right? Quite a bit is that it's not an industry where you see a lot of people just jumping into. There's facts about this industry. It's hot work, it's physical, and you spend time on the road, right? Like most of the time, that's what it looks like. If you're working for a municipality, not so much, but you're doing a lot of different stuff. You're not just doing asphalt work if you work for a municipality most of the time. The trick is making it something that I'm using air quotes is sexy and cool, right? And exciting. And we've been able to do that recently. I think that asphalt industry is adapting technology really well that makes it really interesting to some of these people, right? At Con Expo, there were completely GPS ran skid steers and end loaders and backhoes and that type of stuff. And then we had guys using drones to map over software and outlay software on all these projects and things. And there's software integration involved now with municipal projects and highway projects. So I think it's on us to invest in that stuff, especially the larger companies that are creating the equipment and stuff. I think it's on us to invest in those things to make things cool so that people do want to mess with it. Because even if you do have an opportunity to work somewhere behind a desk, you don't really want to, man. You want to be out in the world, challenging yourself, doing something cool. And as long as you can make that appealing and financially appealing as well, which it should be, everybody knows the asphalt industry, there's plenty of money to go around, and a lot of money gets let to governments, and they can spend that with private contractors and whatnot too. I think that's on us, man, to make it really cool and really sexy. We think we do a decent job here at Blacktop Banter of making the asphalt industry fun and interesting. I would say probably the millions of views on some of these videos we put out proves that. But for longevity and long term, I don't want to always be 10 or 15 years behind in our industry. And it feels like for a long time we were. I feel like we're catching up to the rest of the world now. Maybe you can kind of talk about that a little bit, Mike. But I think that we have to get caught up and stay caught up. And I think it's on us, the manufacturers, the contractors, the media companies, which we are now, to make sure that it's cool to do what we do. You can make a living, you can create a life for your family, you can be in charge of stuff, you can take responsibility, you can challenge yourself. Really, to me, and you provide something instrumental in the world functioning and getting from point A to point B. It feels like it has tons of purpose. To me, it checks all the boxes, the asphalt industry does, but from the outside looking in, it may not seem like that. I think it's on us to make that happen by showing what we do.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that's a
very
long-winded
well
one.
No, but
Thanks.
that was good. I mean, like you said, it goes right into what we were talking about, relationships and mentorships, and
Yeah,
just making
yeah,
sure that there are people to mentor, and we have to make sure that they know about this industry and the exciting things we're doing.
for sure. Yeah, and there always is. I mean, when we go to a lot of the conferences and stuff, you get guys there where, well, this is the first time I've been to a conference, or I just started my business last year, or we just started working for so and so, and they come up to us because they want us to talk to them about what they do being cool. And we totally think it is cool, whether they're shoveling, whether they're running the wand on Crafco or whatever it is. And they want to be part of that. So I think, like we were hinting to earlier, it's a big family. It's a huge, huge industry with a really tight knit family feel to it. If you bring somebody in and make them feel like family and make them feel like what they do is cool, they like to be with it. Like they want to be there. They want to be at the Blacktop Banter events. They want to be at the live demos that Crafco puts on because it's part of what their life is. So yes, it's a lifestyle. Yes, you have to commit to that, right, for the time that you're in there and the duration of it. But to me, it leads to a lot more rewards than it does anything that would ever be detrimental to it. And I think that that's kind of the thing that we want to show here, is that it's cool. Dude, I don't ever see us not being in the asphalt industry, right? I mean, it's where we are, and I think that Crafco does a good job of presenting and having different people and having a way to get people caught up and show their stuff in a cool light too, which thankfully we get to do now too. We get to show Crafco stuff in a cool light. That cool stuff to me always is the equipment. Like, I don't know, you've seen like hashtag so satisfying or some stuff like that, that people put on. Dude, Crafco crack filler behind a wand in a huge deep crack in the front of the wand, you see this giant crevice, and then behind the puck, you just see something completely filled up, right? I'm like, there's nothing more satisfying to me than that. I love making those videos, which we do, and I love seeing them and whatnot too. But Crafco's got a crazy line, like you were saying, of the preservation products, right? Like all the specs and different specs for the crack filler. So we can talk about the crack filler. I would love to, if you want to talk about some and the ranges of them and why there are so many. If you want to get into that, I geek out on that type of stuff. We just switched. I'll share a story with you. We switched from 221 to 202 for our parking lot needs. We found 221 was a little too soft for us on the hot days and whatnot, and switched to 202. Is that the right move? Is that the wrong move?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Good, perfect.
No, I've never, in my experience, I haven't seen anybody use 221. Now that's in the Southeast, our climate's very different.
For sure.
If you were down here in one of my states and you said, "Hey, I've been using 221, I want to go to 200," we use 200 down here.
Okay.
Or 202. I personally would think that's a good move.
Yeah.
You've got
it's getting hotter up here, dude. It's getting hotter.
It's getting hotter up there.
Yeah, dude, it's getting hotter up here. Like, I think that probably would have been a good idea when I was a kid. I remember 6-foot snow like over my grandma's Oldsmobile. We don't see that very much anymore around here.
No,
and the summers are hotter. They're longer. They're definitely drier. And to me, I think it is time for us to start moving that. I'm not one of those big like thumpers on climate change and stuff, but dude, it's been hotter. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but it's hotter the older I get for sure. And it seems like it was the right move. We moved some stuff and marred some stuff with that 221. We had a Crafco rep reach out through our content, right? He's like, Marvin, I don't want you running into any issues. Switch that 202, try it out, see what happens. If that's still too soft, jump to something else or do whatever. But, you know, that's the beauty of it is we have all these options and all these opportunities to do different things with the Crafco crack sealants.
Yeah, 221 is what we would say a 60 ASTM 6690 Type 2. We see it a lot on airfields, a lot of state specs, and for highways, it's great because it's directional, single directional traffic.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think of a parking lot. It wheels, heels,
stagnant,
power steering.
The parking on it.
There's you just need much more of a stiffer sealant. So I'd say that was a good move.
Dude, we love the 221 because when we would go back the next year, it doesn't even look like there's any stress from it moving. You know, there's no, what you would get sometimes is that flex, and then it would come back together and there'd be a stress line down the middle of like where it flexed and then went back together. Like it gets cold here, dude. It was minus 40 and then it'll be 120 in the summer. So we have the huge spectrum of it expanding and contracting. The 221 is fantastic for that. But we would get callback, like we just had it like 2 callbacks this year, and they're like, yeah, it stuck to my tire when I parked. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it happens once in a while. And summer would turn on again, like, hey, it's stuck again. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to figure something else out. Like the 221's just sticking too much. So we switched to 202. We've seen decent results so far. I think we switched like a month ago. But one thing, when we had to use the direct fire, never any issues, right? We have the Crafco PLS direct fire material. Never any sticking, but also we squeegee those down by hand and whatnot too with the direct fire machines and whatnot. So I think that there's a application process and everything to all the different spectrums and whatnot. But what is that the reason why there are so many variations of it? Is because of the climates, or is it because of spec for engineers, or is it a combination of both? What is it?
All of the above. I mean, think about the temperature swing you just said. You're getting 100-degree temperatures, I think is what you said, or high temperatures in the summer. And then in the winter, you're going to negative 40.
Yeah.
And so that sealant has to be flexible enough to accommodate that movement, yet it has to be stiff enough to be able to have tires go over it at slow moving and turning and shopping carts. So that's one of the driving things is climate, but it's also outside factors. How much movement a pavement's getting. There's a lot of different things we look at. And, the good thing about it is we're able to know what those sealants can do because we're manufacturing our own sealants. We're testing them in-house. So we know what's going to be good for the climate.
Yeah.
But even with that said, though, some stuff that we might not necessarily recommend to do, you call some guys that have been doing this 10 years, they're like, yeah, I've been using this sealant in parking lots for 10 years. It works for me.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what are you going to say to that? Yeah, lab testing, you're going to say no. And from our experience, but you're the guy putting it down, truckloads a year in parking lots. And if that works for you, do what you know. But we want to have something that can accommodate, not just the States. We ship crack sealant around the world.
Oh, for sure. For sure, all different climates all over the world.
Think of all the different climates and the different type of traffic.
Is that how the number system works? If it's a higher number, it's more flexible, and the lower down you go, it's less flexible, or is it just randomly different?
I wish I could answer that. I have
that's
no
just an
clue
observation.
about,
I was like,
because I don't know, because you've got, say,
I'm gonna get an engineer on here. I'm gonna get an engineer on here.
We got a guy I can introduce to in Crafco.
Cool. I'm gonna get
much
samples and just stretch them out. I'm gonna say, oh, this is this one. This is this one. This is this one.
That was actually a good learning tool for me. We used to have this board, and it was a 6690 Type 1 material, Type 2, parking lot sealant, silicone, and a few others. And when someone was saying, well, how much more flexible? It's not the most scientific way, but you pull out the board and they say, oh, man, that's a
you touch it.
Difference.
Oh, yeah,
really,
this is one.
Yeah, it's just it was good learning for me to see how different, because in there in front of you, you got your boxes. They just look like a square black blob.
Yeah, and you don't really know it. Like you start touching, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about the gray material, the gray crack filling material, because you don't get to see it too much. I'm guessing that we don't see it all that often at all. I don't know if I've ever seen it up here. I've seen it, but I haven't seen up here. I actually seen a direct fire version of it one time, but I'm guessing that that material has to be machine specific, correct? You can't be throwing the gray in with the black. There's no way.
No, the black I mean, you really, if you're switching machines, there is some cleaning involved with it.
But you try
Which
to
we've
keep it
had to
machine
do.
specific.
Yeah, we try to. My distributor keeps a gray specific machine just
Okay.
because of the state use. They're using it for sealing concrete bridges.
Yep. Are there many
We're not a
variations
big
in that? In the crack
There's
filling?
two.
Oh, there's two. Okay.
There's two different brands or two different specifications of the gray crack
Okay.
sealant that we make. And it's great. I mean, it's a good material. If you've already got a super shot that you own or on rent, it's a good excuse to go out and seal joints because
Yeah.
you don't need a pump or you're not down. Like if you're using silicone, you got to have another pump or you got to get down on your hands and knees with a big caulking gun.
Yeah.
So you can run a few bags of this material through your super shot, get it cleaned out, and then go out there and seal your joints. But it is a unique because it's granules.
Yeah.
So when
Oh,
you
really?
open the
Okay.
bag, it's not a box. That's why that guy I told you earlier, he got the wrong bag.
Yeah.
He got our HP concrete
Okay.
instead
So
of the
it's
Road
not in a
Saver.
block.
No, it's a meltable 35-pound
Oh.
bag. It's awesome because you just pull it
Oh.
right off. The whole bag melts and everything. And I don't know if we've done any testing on this, but just from field experience, it seems like it melts quicker. Because
Oh,
once
yeah,
you
for sure.
throw it in there, all those granules just go
Burst open.
everywhere.
You're not heating a whole block down to its core. You're busting it
Right.
apart. There we go.
And so
They
we've
give us credit for that. Crafco better give us credit for that when they use
Yeah.
black material now. We helped out with the R&D. All I want is just a little logo down the bottom of the box or something like that. It'd be cool.
Yeah,
But
do it on
yeah,
the bottom side.
yeah, it makes sense, dude. That's crazy. I'd like to get in touch with somebody and ask them about that, how they built it and designed it and whatnot. To me, that's the kind of stuff I geek out on because the fact that we're able to do that and it's hot applied, right? And it's a gray material. I'm guessing both types are oil jacketed, correct?
They are.
Yeah, and one's all right. And I want to know why there's two. What's the story here? One's probably less flexible than the other. One's for northern climate and one's for southern climate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Man,
one
that's
meets
crazy.
the 6690 Type 1 spec, which is ASTM, and then one meets our 518
What's
spec.
What do they come in? What do the packages come in of the gray?
It is just a white meltable bag,
How heavy?
35 pounds.
Okay, so what's the price difference between a price difference in the gray and a price difference in the black? Per box.
Substantial. Yeah, it's a big difference in price. It is. Yeah, resin's more expensive,
Yeah.
but in the times that we've used it, and we've got our state agency actively using it. We've used it on airports down
Better
here.
bonding. I'm guessing better bonding than if they were going to use an oil-based material, you think? Or do they just want it for aesthetics?
Georgia is a big aesthetic state. We make two different types of mastic 1 and Techcrete,
okay.
and they don't want black mastic put all over their gray concrete.
So you make a gray mastic too as well?
Yeah, Techcrete.
Get out.
So
Techcrete.
concrete. You can use it interchangeably, but we say predominantly for concrete because it's gray in color, so it's aesthetically pleasing.
Dang, man, that's neat. So let's talk about the equipment a little bit. There's a line. We can go through the history of equipment and how things started. I'll get somebody else at some point to get on here and tell us about the whole history of the company because I would love to get that story and just how it went and then how it became Aragon and everything else. But
it's an interesting, I won't go into it because I wasn't here for a lot of it, but just hearing the old guys see where we were at,
dude, it's
to
crazy.
where we're at now.
Those are my favorite
technology.
stories.
Yeah, I love hearing the old stories.
Dude, all those guys were on the tip of the spear. Like all those companies were on the tip of the spear. They all had that to their advantage. And we've had a couple guests from different equipment manufacturers and stuff, not competitors of Crafco, of course, but like the guy from Lee Boy and whatnot have been on. And to hear the story about them starting manufacturing stuff in a garage and he had a welder and then we had a few beers and put it together and do whatever, and then we've got a marketing guy, and then it turned into this, and now it's here, and then we sold off to that and whatnot. Those are the best damn stories ever to me because it's just like, here are these guys that are blue collar, they're working their tails off, and they're doing hard physical labor. They go home, they don't want to do the hard physical labor anymore. Are they inventors? Probably not, but they sure do want their lives to be easier. So they manufacture or put something together to start doing the job easier. And it always seems like that's the crux of our industry, is like somebody wanted to make something easier, of course, and these guys were the guys that did it. And their hands were callous and they were sweating and probably cracked knuckles and whatnot, but they did it and put it together. But, you know, it always comes down to the equipment. What are your favorite 3 pieces of Crafco equipment that are out there right now that you'd like to talk about?
Definitely the Patcher 4 that we just released earlier this year, the Crafco Patcher 4.
Yep.
And then the Super Shot.
Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about the Patcher 4.
The Patcher 4, it's very similar to the Patcher 2 in the function of it, but it's 395 gallons instead of 200 gallons.
Okay.
So you've doubled your capacity. It's a bigger machine. I like it. I mean, we just used it on a big job here for accounting.
Yep.
And it just went good. I mean, think about it. Instead of putting mastic, this goes into a whole nother conversation. Mastic's a little different in operation, is you can't just you shouldn't add blocks of mastic as you work. Like with your Crafco, as you're getting lower, you're adding material as your guys are working, right? So now with this Patcher 4, you can put almost two pallets of material.
No way, really?
In this thing and work. I mean, that's a lot of mastic.
Does that agitate from the top, or does it agitate horizontally?
It's vertical agitation. So the Super Shots have rotational agitation.
Yeah.
These machines have vertical agitation.
Okay.
So what that does, that keeps the rock, the aggregate, and the binder in a consistent mix.
Okay, so you got it going like this.
Paddles going up.
Like paddles going up and down, pulling it up, pulling it down, pulling it up, pulling it down. So you don't have settling.
Correct. Yeah,
Dang,
that's
man.
exactly it. You don't want the aggregate settled. You want what's coming out of the back of that machine consistent. So you've got a flexible load-bearing repair.
Dang, man. I think my favorite, of course, and I think probably everybody's favorite, is the Super Shot. Right? I'm guessing that's one of your favorite ones. That's classic.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, it's number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it took us from the easy pours, which we use, Super Shots, but just been the standard now. And we've seen the one at Con Expo with more bells and whistles, beautiful machine, right? What's your favorite thing about that machine?
The Super Shot?
Yeah.
Probably the hose and wand. If I had to pick one thing, creature comfort, it's safe. It's easy to use. I mean, you squeeze the trigger,
and
you get sealant, you let it go, and it completely stops.
Yeah.
But it's even more that this new hose boom.
I've seen it.
We've got. Have you seen that? The Flex Boom?
Yeah.
That's comfort.
Dude, I tell you, like, just thinking about it, because we ran the easy pour, I think a couple weeks ago, I ran it on a parking lot, and all I could think about is at Con Expo, me holding that up, and it felt like God was pulling the tension off of my arms and stuff with the boom, right? Just lifting it up. And it was like, so the heated wand changes the game, right? And now that one changes the game. Like, you literally almost could go all day until you just don't want to crack fill anymore.
Yeah.
And before, you had some endurance that you had to make happen, right? And then, like, talk to yourself into it and motivate yourself. Let's keep going. We got a little bit farther.
And I made it worse. On my machine that's assigned to me, I have like a Super Shot assigned to me. I always got tired. You'd rent this thing out to contractors, airport guys. They destroy stuff. It's and it's part of construction, but some of it's just, it ain't mine.
That ain't mine.
So I took this rubber, it's like hard plastic, and I wrapped it around the hose.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to have, hey, I've got to make sure this machine looks good for the next customer, because even though you're renting it, I might have to go demo to try to sell one.
Yep.
And so I'd always put that, and it made it heavier.
Oh, I got
But
you.
you know what? I was like, whatever, it doesn't tear my hose up.
Yep.
So now with this Flex Boom, not only it does, I absolutely, and all the like stake guys that do this every day for months at a time, they're like, man, I can feel my shoulders afterward.
Yeah, dude. They're not drawing straws anymore.
Yeah, but on the maintenance side of it, it's not it's keeping that hose off the ground.
Yep. Yeah, we got I mean, they're you know as well as I do, there are wires running all through there. The hose is on the ground. You have to try to keep it up and and it's weighing on you as well. Any of the wires go, you're in for having to get something repaired and whatnot as well. But it's just like I said, the guys aren't drawing straws anymore to see who's on the wand. The guy who's on the wand's like, okay, cool. You're gonna just sit in the truck, or you can feed the machine.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, dude, I don't care. But we've seen
the feeding job. You just stand up there and press a button on the auto loader and just.
Dude, I just seen one the other day. I was thinking about that myself. I was like, dude, that guy used to have to break the boxes down, take them apart, put them in, do whatever. Now he stands on the bed and just throws them up. We got one that's on the conveyor. It just goes down, goes right into the machine, and you're good to go.
Especially if you've got our meltable packaging.
Yeah.
There's no boxes to cut, flip over, worry about them flying out of the back of the truck. It's really back from the pallet, put it up on the conveyor and press a button.
Press a button and put it in. I've seen them guys go through, especially out here on the interstate work, pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets, dude, faster than I ever would imagine they went through. And that's because of the machines, heating and technology improved. The wand, of course, is less downtime. The conveyor, and the guy being on the bed, and the meltable packaging makes the whole difference. It just makes everything way more efficient. And we all know time is money in this industry, right? You get that game, you might win contracts that pay for whatever it was for the machine to be up there and pay for. But it all comes down to numbers every time. What I'm curious about is your third one. What's your third favorite one? Is it a variation of one of the others? Is it a completely different machine itself?
I really like the EZ series.
Yeah.
It's a hard one because the Patcher 2 is what I, learned on, cut my teeth on. I've done a lot of demos with the Patcher 2, and I gravitate towards mastic. I really do. I mean, we go into an agency or to a contractor, we talk about it all, but like mastic's that thing that excites me.
Gotcha.
Because it's not just filling a crack, and that's important. We need to do that.
Yeah.
But it's fun with the mastic because sometimes you're going out there milling up bridge deck approaches.
Yeah.
You're actually fixing something. You're
rewinding the clock,
which is kind of the enemy of pavement preservation in a sense.
It is.
But it still is pavement preservation because even with mastic, you're not getting on roads that are falling apart.
No.
And so I gravitate a lot towards mastic, but a lot of our bigger highway contractors, those machines, I mean, you're running 2 wands. It's amazing the precision and the productivity those guys can do.
Yeah. And I think that's necessary, right? We had conversations earlier and whatnot about efficiency and technology and that stuff being at the forefront. Being able to run 2 guys on the wand with a machine that can keep up at that same time with no downtimes is highly, highly important. With where you live, what material through any of those machines, being in a southern climate there, what material do you find yourself selling or recommending the most of the full line of what you guys have?
Georgia makes it, so I've got 3 states. Georgia makes it easy. They have their own spec.
Really?
Yeah, they created, and I don't know the whole process of it, but they have their own spec. So we have a material 518.
Yep.
Well, we have another material just for Georgia, 518 GA. So they tweaked it. Yeah, so it's just for them. So it makes it easy. So when the cities and counties call and they say, hey, hey, this is what GDOT's on their QPL.
What's the difference? Why? What's the difference in it? Do you know at all?
They tweaked something, I believe, with the setup time. They did something that supposedly it makes it set up a little faster.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well,
so a lot of these states maintain databases. So, sometimes you still recommend something different based on the unique, and that goes into really having a relationship to ask your customer all the other questions instead of just saying, hey, I need a sealant. Okay, well, how much movement's in your pavement? How much traffic? How old's the pavement? So maybe you do, even though the state spec is this, maybe you do also say, well, this is a little stiffer, but it also depends on what they're trying to accomplish. Are you getting on a pavement early in the life cycle, or are you calling me because you don't have any money to pave and you've got to do something?
So that might be the piece of advice I'm going to ask you, right? Is obviously it's advantageous if you're the one, if you can get in front of whoever's making the decision about preserving or not preserving, whether using preservation or just whether you're not starting new. like there's these guys that are like, okay, I would love to buy one. I'd love to buy a masking machine. I'd love to buy super shot. But right, there's somebody who's like, yeah, but what piece of advice would you have for somebody who's hesitant on that at all? Because a lot of times whether it's price tag or whether it's wondering whether or not they can get into the game or whatever it is, what would that piece of advice be if you could leave us with some piece of advice for people who are hesitant or they want to buy, they want to get into it, but they're hesitant on it? What would that be?
You got to ask some more questions. So whatever that objection is to not do pavement preservation, you've got to really find out what that objection is. I'll give you an example. One of the largest counties in Georgia I went to, and a lot of times to agencies, there's two separate sides. There's in-house maintenance and there's engineering. I went to in-house maintenance. Come to find out, for one of the largest counties in Georgia, they have 5 asphalt maintenance guys.
Dang.
So when it takes 3 people to crack seal, right?
Yep.
Got to blow it out, got to drive, got to seal.
Yep.
Well, how do you tell them to get into that? I mean, literally, their job, they come in every day and there's work orders and they grab those work orders. So when he told me that, I knew there was no avenue. And I said, hey, can you introduce me to your engineering department? Yeah. Took me over there, introduced to the whole team. Mm-hmm. And then we had to look at going someone like you, a contractor, letting a project. And that's kind of one of the success stories I told you about that, made me feel good and, something where I can really help a customer out. Cool. So I would say if you're in a role to even you selling a job, right? Because I'm sure there's some business development with the contractor side, is finding out what that pinch is. Because I've never in 3.5 years had to explain that crack sealing works. Never.
Yeah.
Now there's objections. We don't have the budget to buy a machine. We don't know any crack seal contractors, and that's where that relationship comes in, and you have to guide them down the path that's going to be the best option for them.
Yeah, I think developing that relationship with your territory manager, right, wherever you are, or whoever's in charge of Crafco in your area, that way you're at the forefront of their mind, right? You develop that relationship where if somebody Southwest Wisconsin's like, hey, this municipality needs crack filling, they don't do it themselves, they're not going to hire out another county. Is this something that you would be interested in doing? Well, yeah, probably. Okay, get some numbers together, put it in front. Then they're able to put that in front compared to completely repaving it or whatever they're going to do. And now you have a stake in the game, which is a great piece of advice. Where can people find yourself, Mike, online? And then where can people find more information about Crafco?
So to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. On Crafco.com, you can go to all the states. We have a contact us page, and you can, whatever state you're in, scroll to, and it'll give you my information or the respective territory manager. Personally, I'm on LinkedIn, just like I think everybody else should be.
Yes, sir. I believe so too.
Starting to get into the TikTok thing. I've made some videos. I'm getting there. There's another guy, I'm sure you know him, James.
Yeah.
James Clark. He kind of, I'm nowhere.
I have better hair than him, but I know him.
Everybody has better hair than him.
Yeah, everybody's got better hair than James. Yeah, and, I mean it's interesting, but LinkedIn I think is where like you were saying everybody should be. I mean that seems to be where you find them. But Crafco we know for sure. We tag them a lot on Instagram as well and on Facebook as well. I think they have a great YouTube channel as well with a lot of information. They cover all their bases, man.
I'll tell you, that's how I figure out if I can't get someone on the phone, I'm over there hiding behind my truck looking up YouTube videos on how to fix stuff. That's why we do it, right? That's why we do it.
Totally is. Yeah, it totally is. I think you got to be transparent and be fully resourceful to your clients and stuff as well. Mike, we'd love to have you back on here, man, sometime, especially to talk about, in a year or so. We're all going to be at World of Asphalt and whatnot as well, and I'm sure we're going to see you guys there. We're going to try to be at the MPPC coming up in Indiana as well with Crafco, so we're excited for that. You guys are always everywhere at all the shows, do great representation, sponsor a lot of great things in our industry to keep it interesting and keep this type of stuff coming to you guys, so we really appreciate that. We appreciate you being here with us today, Mike.
Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Hey, man, no worries. So you can catch this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other places where you're listening, if you're listening right now, of course. But If you want to see the video versions, you can do that on our YouTube channel as well, over at Blacktop Banter. Just type that in YouTube. You'll find this one. You'll find a bunch of them. You'll find some fun content there, some of our vlogs and different things from the races. This one will likely post after a recent race that we went at NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, where we were and covered that as well. So there's all types of content, stuff like that. And of course, follow us on Instagram, TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. And we'll see you there. For myself, for Chris here in the studio, for Mike Corvino in the beautiful state of Georgia, this is Blacktop Banter, where we speak asphalt. Peace.
Hey there, Blacktop Banter fans. This is Hayden. I am the co-founder of Spot On Site. We're asphalt contractors ourselves. We run an asphalt paving company based out of Denver, Colorado. We know this is a game-changing app that will help you measure and mark your locations in your parking lots, document using time-stamped photos, videos, and comments, and send professional-looking reports to your customers. We have a free 14-day trial on spotonsiteapp.com.
Trout River Industries, a leader in the live bottom industry, is tailor-made for the paving industry. Their rounded tub design provides a lower center of gravity, ensuring more stability, while the forward-reverse conveyor allows you to balance the load and have full control over the amount of product you disperse. Additional options such as an asphalt chute, release agent tanks, hydraulic knife gate, dial flow controls, and the newly launched Trout River Auger, an ideal solution for difficult to reach places such as guardrails, narrow driveways, curbs, and patching asphalt roads, help make paving easier and more efficient. Call 1-902-859-1200 for more information and let them help you find the perfect solution for your needs.
Hey, Jessica Lombardo with Pavex, the Pavement Experience, and I want to invite you all to join us in San Antonio for the first ever event. It will be held January 30th through February 1st at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. We are going to have a live equipment demonstration over 2 days, 60 hours of educational programming, and a full trade show floor with over 75 manufacturers of equipment in the paving and pavement maintenance space. So please join us there, and to learn more and get yourself registered, visit www.pavexshow.com.
When it comes to asphalt tools and supplies, Liberty Supply has darn near everything you need. I actually think the owner, Sam, sleeps on a mountain of spray tips in their warehouse, alongside the pour pots, hot pots, steel brooms, chalk lines, flagging tape, and hundreds of other items. If you call Sam today at 800-397-9907 or visit libertysupply.biz, they'll get you set up with everything you need. For custom and multi-piece stencils, I always turn to Stencil Plus. They've supplied every stencil we use, and these things last a long time. Actually, I should probably call Jeff over at Stencil Plus and just say hi, because it's been a long time since I've had to place an order. Anyway, if you want long-lasting, high-quality stencils, head over to stencilplus.com and save 10% by using the code BB10 during checkout.